Hello everyone, Josh NBC 2000 here, and today I've got another video for you all, and it's going to be on Nightwing issue 82. Well, it's going to be more on Tom Taylor's Nightwing as a whole, because I've not really done a video on any of the issues yet, because unfortunately I just haven't had the time. Now, I'm just going to quickly go over the gameplay in the background. The gameplay in the background is Thief from 2014. To be honest, I'm just revisiting an old game I've never actually finished. Some old timers on the channel will remember I did a really crap Let's Play of this back in the day. Never actually finished it, because that was back in the day when I was really finicky about the kind of content I put up on YouTube. I was like trying to be like super child friendly. And I found out that, yeah, this game has a mission that takes place in a house of ill repute. So, yeah, that was one of the reasons I yeeted the Let's Play for that. And also, to be honest, I was playing Dishonored at the same time, and Dishonored was just the better game, to be honest. Had a lot more fun with Dishonored. You know, maybe if I'd have done a walkthrough of that, you might have actually got a decent series. Hey yo, hindsight's 2020. Anyway, speaking of decent series, let's talk about Nightwing, shall we? Now, as you all have noticed, it is written by the man Tom Taylor, and honestly, it's a Tom Taylor. It's a Tom Taylor title. What do I have to say anything? Now, I know Nightwing has been through a bit of a rough patch recently with the whole Dick Grayson thing, and I read it for a few issues to see what was going on, because I heard he got shot in the head. This is something Tom King did. Honestly, Tom King did a lot of things with Batman that he just shouldn't have been allowed to do. Like, just honestly, I'm still mad they let him kill Alfred. Like, I know I brought this up in the previous video, but I'm still mad. And the whole Dick Grayson getting shot in the head and losing his memories thing was kinda dumb. Amnesia arcs in comics tend to be pretty naff. Like, you know, characters losing their memories. They tend to be a bit naff. It's an excuse for a writer to do something else with them. And, you know, there's a thing with Nightwing where New 52, they tried to do the whole Agent Grayson thing with a spiral, you know, and then, you know, Rebirth, they said, hey, let's make him Dick Grayson, let's make him a taxi driver, you know, like, and just stop it, just let him be Nightwing, come on. And the real problem I had with the Dick Grayson side of it as well is the fact that, don't quote me, but I think the Dick Grayson stuff was, I think Scott Lobdell had a hand in it. I will double check and I'll put a graphic up on the screen to confirm this, but, you know, at the time you had Scott Lobdell writing both Jason Todd and Dick Grayson. And it was very noticeable because Dick, all of a sudden, started behaving a lot more like Jason. And, yeah, it doesn't fit for Nightwing. I like both characters, but here's the thing: Nightwing is kind of the, you know, he's more like a Spider-Man type character. You know, like very quippy, you know, very light-hearted, you know. Whereas Red Hood is more like the Punisher. So, I'm not saying they're exactly alike during that period of time, but there were some similarities between the way, you know, they were written. Dick Grayson was a bit more of a darker character, you know. Bear in mind, I only read the first couple of issues of the whole Dick Grayson thing, because I just kind of like, I'm just like, no. Why is he moping around in a cab? What are you, Travis Bickle? Good God. Anyway, so, yeah, I dropped Nightwing. and then I didn't come back to Nightwing. This was around about the time I dropped both Batman and Nightwing at this point. And then basically I hear Nightwing's coming back. So it's like, okay, yeah, might as well grab this. And then I find out afterwards it's a Tom Taylor book. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. What you got for me? And okay, so the first story revolves around KG Beast. You know, KG Beast was the one who shot him in the head, caused him to lose all his memories. And KG Beast came back and he's like, you know, you made me look like a laughing stock. I'm not going to miss this time. And basically him and Nightwing duked it out, and Nightwing got him dealt with, got him arrested. And then he proceeded to, like, he was talking to his current girlfriend. I can't remember the character's name. The new one that was in the Dick Grayson run. I reread the issue deliberately so this wouldn't happen. Like, I reread all the Nightwing issues that Tom Taylor has written recently, deliberately trying to avoid forgetting stuff. Still hasn't worked. But yeah, so he turns around to her and says, look, you know, what I do is dangerous. Like, well, no, in his head with the monologue, he's basically saying, look, you know, what I do is dangerous. I don't want her getting in harm's way, so I've got to do this. So he breaks it off with her, and then he goes back to Bloodhaven, and he's like, you know, he's kind of like, he puts on the Nightwing suit, and he's a bit like, okay, so look, you know, let's get the house in order, get everything back to how it should be. And Tom Taylor, like, you know, he the first thing he does has him meet up with the Nightwings, which was a team of like cops and firefighters that took up the Nightwing mantle. They all wore a different Nightwing suit. One wore the New 52 one wore the disco suit, and vice versa, you know, like the old Nightwing suits from the previous runs. And, like, you know, he kind of says to them, look, you know, you're doing an important job in or out of a costume. You know, you're a firefighter. I can't think of anything more heroic than to run into a burning building to save somebody. You know, so, like, he basically says, look, you know, you're doing enough for the city as is in your current roles. You know, you don't need to go out there and put your neck on the block with no training as well. You know, leave it to us, you know, and referring to, like, the Bat family. And one thing I do want to say, Tom makes expert use of Barbara and Tim Drake in this, you know. I definitely like how the current Batman stories and the current Nightwing stories are making use of other characters in the Batman mythos. It's not like, oh, they work alone, you know. I'm tired of that. The Arkham games, like, the Arkham games stuck to that, and it was a pain in the neck. It's like, come on, you've got all these really good side characters, use them. And, you know, it also kind of helps that Tim Drake is one of my favourite Robins, so, you know, seeing him in anything done well is quite nice. And, you know, Barbara, I personally like her as Oracle, so I kind of like the fact that in both the Batman book and the Nightwing book, she's kind of filling more of an Oracle role, which I do quite like, because, you know, I feel Barbara was always a character that worked better when she was using her brain, her tactical nous, her tech skills, you know, to support people in ways that she can't do on the battlefield or out on the street. You know, like, because here's the thing, Batman can take down a whole group of guys on his own. You know, he doesn't necessarily need a sidekick there to back him up. But what he does need is somebody in his ear that can get him schematics, hack a computer, down cameras, you know, do all this kind of stuff that only Oracle can do. You know, and it's nice to have the character of Oracle back. I do really like that. I mean, like, you know, she doesn't have to be paralysed to be Oracle as well. She's actively making the choice to do the role, like, you know, to, like, you know, be like, look, you know, I'm gonna help you guys from here, from the clock tower. And yeah, so I do really adore that. You know, I love the way he's been using the side characters. On top of that, can we just take a little moment to talk about little Bitewing, as Tim has affectionately called him, the little doggo that Nightwing picked up at pretty much near the start of the run. You know, he picked him up in Bloodhaven because these guys were being a bunch of swines and kicking the crap out of this little innocent puppy, and Nightwing picked him up and he bit him, and and his response was like, okay, doctors for me, vets for you. And one thing I absolutely adore is the fact that, you know, Nightwing is now stuck with his dog, because Barbara points out when he gets back, that dog has found its forever home the moment it stepped foot in this flat. It's not going to the pound, and you know it. So, like, Nightwing has a dog now. Hey, why not? I'm okay with it. And speaking of Barbara, the reason she was there to begin with was to read out Alfred's will to Dick Grayson. And this is where we get into kind of the crux of what Tom Taylor is doing with Nightwing. And it's the fact that Alfred has given him all his wealth. Alfred's given him his wealth in his will. This Bruce don't need it. And he even says, I wanted to go to you with it, asking for advice, like, how do I use this money for good? What do I invest in? What charities do I give it to? To make sure this large amount of money is doing the best it can to help people. And Dick, after reading this note from Alfred, which, quite apt, Alfred writes one every year just on the off chance that something bad happens to him. And Nightwing reads this and he's thinking, like, I know what I want to do now. I'm gonna take this money and I'm gonna use it for it to be a safety net for the people of this city, Bloodhaven. Like, because part of the city is literally just a town full of tents, which is full of, like, homeless kids and, like, all that kind of stuff. Like people with no money, people that have hit rock bottom, and he's trying to help them. And you've got the thing where the government is, like, full of mobsters, like kind of like the classic corrupt politician trope that you get in a lot of superhero stuff. And you've got this thing where Nightwing is dealing with all these things, and on top of that we also have some new supervillains as well as some returning favourites. The new supervillain we have is Heartless. Well, I'm pretty sure he's new. We've not got all that much with him yet. We've got a few confrontations, but he's basically preying on the weak and vulnerable of Bloodhaven, and he's using a device that actually removes a person's heart. And, like, you get a demonstration of this being used, and he tries to use it on Nightwing. And, so that's the current, like, that's the main, like, superhero kind of villain we've had so far. Let's talk about some of the mobsters, because we've got a new one and a returning favourite, and I want to touch on both of them, because Tom's doing something quite interesting with one of them. And the first one that I want to talk about is Blockbuster. And Blockbuster's kind of like, he's just like, he's running the show. He's very much kind of like a kingpin kind of figure. Like, if you've seen, like, Daredevil or Spider-Man. Kind of a lot of Marvel comparisons today. And that's because, to be honest, I'm not all that familiar with Nightwing. I've recently brought the first volume of the Chuck Dixon run, which is, like, the pre-52 Nightwing run. I do intend to read that at some point, because must admit, this Tom Taylor run has reignited my interest in Nightwing, so I'm going to give that a go. So, now we've talked about Blockbuster, let's talk a little bit about this new character, which is the daughter of Zuko, the man who killed Nightwing's parents. And you might say, oh, okay, yeah, that seems pretty cut and dry, right? You know, just another mob boss that's the mayor, you know, kind of like, you know, quite cut and dry. Not really. Turns out she's not actually Zuko's daughter. She's actually Nightwing's dad's daughter. They are step-siblings, in a way. Yes, step-siblings. And basically, the reason for this is because Dick's dad saved her mother from Tommy Zuko, who was like a really, like, you know, as she put it, I was bought and paid for age 23. Like, you know, so there's some very dodgy stuff going on there. You know, you got some Nightwing 93, you got some Nightwing issue 93 level bad stuff going on here. Like, so, you know, you've got this thing where basically he now has a new relative, which, you know, they did something very similar in New 52. They did the whole Court of Owls thing. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that because I haven't read New 52 Nightwing. It's on my to-do list. I've got an absolutely massive to-do list of New 52 things that I need to read because unfortunately there's a lot of Rebirth stuff that's kind of missing context when you haven't read it. For reference, the only New 52 series I've read in full currently is Red Hood and the Outlaws. I've read about half of Deathstroke, and I'm on issue 5, volume 5 of Batman. But yeah. Oh, one thing I would say. You can jump into this, the Tom Taylor Nightwing run. There's a trade paper that is coming out fairly soon, which is like there's one more issue left to come out, and then that's coming out, you know. So I'd highly recommend at this point jump on it with the trades, get the first volume, give it a read, and then if you want to carry on from there, pick up the single issues, or just wait for the volumes, either or. Really enjoying this series at the moment. I think Nightwing is probably one of my favourite. Nightwing, Batman, and Robin are probably my 3 favourite main reads at the moment. Robin's in 3rd place. Batman's in 2nd. I've caught up on Batman today, and I want to do a video on Batman. And then Nightwing's in 1st, definitely. So, anyway guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.